Tales from the wild. Stories from the heart. A journey into the mind and soul of fired-up business professionals where they share their vision for the future. And hear from a different non-profit organization every month as they create awareness of their goals and their needs. Dive into a world of untamed passion as we join our host, Shireen Buerta, for this month's episode of Friends from Wild Places.
All right, good day, Wild Hearts. Shireen here. I am your virtual boutique bookkeeper and QuickBooks advisor. The feeling is great and empowering as you scale your business, but you and I both know that as your business grows, the more transactions are made and the more you need to spend time in your books to make sure that they are up to date and accurate. And you don't have that time, do you? Call Shireen's bookkeeping services today and allow me to do your books so you can do life. If you want to know more, go check me out at www.shireensbookkeeping.com and allow me to keep your books clean so you don't have to. Welcome back, listeners. You are listening to Friends from Wild Places with myself, Shireen Buerta, and my co-host, Professor Tanya Skotesi. Tanya, what's news from your side of the world?
Well, welcome everyone. This morning here in Miami, a cloudy day, but we are doing well. We are enjoying life, staying busy at the college, spreading kindness and love where we can, and trying to be the vision in the world. So this afternoon and this morning, depending on where we're calling in from, we have Shireen is calling in from South Africa. I'm based here in Miami, and we have a phenomenal guest today, Ms. Zeenat Siman. Ms. Zeenat, where are you calling in from?
I'm in Miami also.
Miami, we're neighbors then.
Yes, we are.
Awesome. Well, welcome.
Thank you.
Welcome. So Zeenat Siman is the owner of Firefly Bridge Organizing from Miami, Florida, USA. Zeenat is a professional organizer and productivity specialist. She works with busy parents to organize their homes and workspaces so they can spend time on what they actually love and still have a home that they enjoy living in. Zeenat is a wife, mom, and chemical engineer with an MBA. She founded Firefly Bridge in 2017 with a mission to teach others how to simplify and organize. She is a member of NAPO, the National Association of Productivity and Organizing Professionals, and is a board member of South Florida chapter of NAPO. Welcome again. You are so welcome here, Zeenat. Thank you for taking the time out of your busy day just to spend with us.
My goodness, thank you so much for having me. I'm very honored.
Yeah, it's our pleasure. So I just want to get straight into the quote of the day. This is the quote that Zeenat actually, it's close to her heart. It is from Maya Angelou. Is that correct?
Maya Angelou.
Maya Angelou. And it says, each one of us has lived through some devastation, some loneliness, some weather superstorm or spiritual superstorm. When we look at each other, we must say, I understand. I understand how you feel because I have been there myself. We must support each other and empathize with each other because each of us is more alike than we are unalike. So that was a good one. Thank you for sharing that with us. And so, Zeenat, what does that quote mean to you?
For me, it means understanding, tolerance. We don't know what's happening in anyone else's life but our own. And it came to me when I read that. I just started having children. I'd stopped working after a long career, and it just felt very isolating. None of my friends had kids, and so everyone was working. I felt very much thrown into this world of motherhood and trying to figure out what that means. I chose not to continue working, my choice, but it was a very, very difficult transition. And when I read that, I thought, wow, here I am looking at everyone else, wondering how are those moms that I saw at preschool who were always fully dressed, always their hair done, and they looked well, I always just look at them and think, how are you doing this? How are you so well put together when I'm just barely keeping it, straight, getting my kids dressed and into the car and to preschool. It was such an eye opener to start thinking, why am I comparing myself? No one lives my life but me, and they have also their own lives, and whatever is happening in their lives, they may look put together on the outside, but who knows what's happening at home? Who knows what's happening with their children? Who knows what they think about what's happening in my home because I look like this. So I tried to stop with the comparison. I think that's what we need to do, is to stop with the comparisons and really focus on just lifting each other up.
Zeenat, it's funny, it makes reminisce. Sharita and I had done a podcast several months ago, and we had talked about that. And it's like sometimes perception, right? It's like if you see somebody made up, sometimes, and we had talked about it was like a really raw and material as far as that. Sometimes people do that because they feel like their world is falling apart. They wish they could be completely natural and not made up, not ready to go. So as working parents, sometimes it is the flip, because I was a working single mom, and it's like sometimes like you see people like that was just like laid back. It's like, oh, I aspire to be that person. So it's all perception. It really is where we are sitting. So I truly, I admire your words.
Oh, thank you.
Yes, 100%. Whether you're a new mom, comparing yourself to other mums, whether you're just I don't know, it really, the comparison issue is, I think, a really, really big issue amongst women.
Oh, I agree. And I think especially as women business owners, when we're starting out and we're looking at others who are having, who have immediate success.
Right.
And we're looking at ourselves thinking, this is not me. I'm not making it. Maybe I should just quit. Maybe I should just, figure out something else because they're doing great and I'm not. What's happening?
Right.
But business is business. And we understand that everyone has their own path to build their businesses.
Absolutely. And I think it's a really very long, dark down if you start saying, well, why am I not there where they are right now? I'm working really hard. Why don't I have the success that person has, and that's a very dark and long tunnel to go down, and you need to stay away from that, because as you said, Zeenat, everyone is walking a different journey, and no one else can walk your journey is always what I say. There's only one of you, and we need to just, respect the walk and the journey that we're on. So in the light, I'm actually nervous to talk about this next topic. Hence my voice is cracking. Okay. In the light of what's going on in the world right now, and I think everyone feels it, and it's touched everyone's hearts. But I just wanted to take a moment, and I think your quote is applicable in this topic as well, Zeenat. I wanted to speak about what's happening in Israel and Gaza. What are your feelings about this whole scenario, especially when it first happened, to how are you feeling about it now? And how is it affecting you? And I just want you to know, and everyone that's listening to understand, that this is a time to speak your truth and share your opinion. This is a safe space for everyone. So there's no judgment here. And I only want respect and love. So no hate speech, please. But yes, I just want us to talk a little bit about it. So Zeenat, as our visitor, please share a little bit about your thoughts on this whole thing.
Well, this has been incredible. This is sadly not the first time we've seen this kind of brutality. And so when it first happened, my first reaction was shock. And it just felt surreal. Is this really what's happening? This is 2023. Is this really what's happening? Is this really how we treat each other? I was flabbergasted that this could even happen, that anyone has it in their hearts to do something like this. And so, I've had a chance to sit with it for a few weeks, and I am, I've history repeats itself, but why? This is in my mind, it's why. Why does this continue to happen? Why have we not learned? Why are we not able to find some sort of understanding, some sort of compromise? And I know, sitting here on my side of the world, I can say that, and I know that living it is much different than seeing it from over here. But I look at this type of brutality and I can't understand it. It makes me so sad. And I think about, so my kids are older, they're high school and young adults. And so they're able to see this and process and understand, and we talk about it. But for, the younger kids, how much of this do we want them to understand what's happening? But how much of the raw brutality of it do we share with them? I never want them to feel numb to violence. I want them to understand what violence is. Even when they were young and things had happened in the world, school shootings and other crazy violent events around the world, I wanted them to know what was happening in the world and kind of the reasoning behind it, that the way that I understood it in any case. But I also didn't want them to feel like this is part of life. This is what's going to happen. I have hope that at some point, maybe not in my lifetime, but in their lifetimes, that things will be different. People will think and feel differently and communicate, dialogue with each other differently. And that hasn't happened in the past 80 years, that nothing has really changed in that part of the world that I can see. So it's hard. It's hard.
Yeah. And yourself, Tanya?
It's when you look at people, right? And people from all walks of life, all nations, and everyone has, as you mentioned, Zeenat, very eloquently, a perspective, right? So we sit back from our viewpoint, from our perspective. But when you look at leaders, world politics, world religions, it's so much above the average common person, right? So I think that's what we're sitting back as the one individual or a group of people looking at what's happening and saying, what can we do to make a difference? So I think it kind of starts there. I mean, if you look historically, from a historical perspective, politics, religion has been, many over the years have lost their lives and everything that they had to stand for. So as you stated, in the year 2023, to still be faced with, maybe times have changed to some degree, but at hand, that's probably the essence, just different viewpoints. And, we just pray for peace. I think that's what we do, is we pray for peace and just literally one day at a time.
Right. Well, I might trigger something here, but okay. So I'm going to start off by saying this. I am not on either side, but I am on the side of the innocents. So there has been people murdered and killed and oppressed on both sides. And those are the people I'm standing for. It's those defenseless ones that didn't ask for this, that unfortunately was in the wrong time, in the wrong place. I'm 100% for them. I do not and don't understand someone that can come to me and go, well, I rape and kill those people because they oppressed me, because they did horrible things to me, because they tortured me, and they deserve it. So I'm going to go there and I'm going to do the same things back to them, or even worse. I cannot and will not condone that in any way, shape, or form. I can't, because goodness knows we have all, and more others, have been horribly oppressed. Horrible things have been done to them. But you still decide, and you still have a choice on how to react, despite what has been done to you. And I think we forget that everybody has a choice at the end of the day, and you can still have a choice, no matter how much you think that that might have been taken away from you for a period of time, you still have a choice on how you're going to move forward with your life and how you want to be, what you want to leave behind as remembrance of who you are. And so I have to say that because for me, it's really heavy on my heart because I'm 100%, I'm not on either side, but I do stand for the innocent lives that have been hit by this. But I also do not and cannot condone, I'm going to kill your family, Zeenat, because you beat me up when we were in school and you did horrible other things to me when we were growing up, whatever the case may be.
Yeah.
So I just wanted to say that. I don't know if that if that triggers anything further from you two, but that's my feelings on it.
Mm-hmm. No, I just think, as we said, sometimes, people get triggered by watching media and feel that they have to pick a side when that's not really even what's being offered. It's our choice to stay, and we can process and, choose peace for humanity.
Agreed.
Exactly. And continue to be hopeful that the lessons of hate and violence don't continue from generation to generation to generation, because that's what's happened. That's history. And, you teach your children, but I also teach my children to,
right.
There's a world of opinions out there, not just mine. So let's listen to a number of opinions before you formulate your own. Absolutely. But of course, we can't have that influence on everyone in the world. And so that there's a perpetuation of thinking that at some point has to change. And I don't know how to change that. I wish I did. Keep being hopeful.
Yeah, exactly. It's not an easy thing to fix. As you said, this is thousands and thousands of years, and that's been going on. But it can start with you. Little things can start with you, and you just got to keep on doing what you're doing,
Yeah.
And so with that, Zeenat, I want to get into a little bit about who you are and your business that you started. So tell us a little bit about your background, who you are, and, your decision to become a business owner out of all things.
Out of all things. Well, I had a very traditional type of career path early on. I finished my studies and I got a job as an engineer in R&D at a food company. And it was fabulous. It was a great career. It was fun. There was a lot of creativity. There was a lot of camaraderie. And it was great. But when I started having kids.
I got to ask you, creative. I admire you for the engineer part, because
engineers.
I'm creative and engineer. Like, you got to explain that a little.
How did that happen? Well, as a chemical engineer, there were options in the day. This was in the 90s. You could work for a petroleum company, an oil company, that kind of thing, or you could work for consumer products companies. And then there were, of course, other, French companies. But the ones that came to our school to recruit were mostly the chemical companies, the petroleum companies, and then there were a handful of consumer products companies. And I was drawn to that more so than, do I want to work on an oil field? Not really. But do I want to do this? This felt more like, okay, I'm touching individual lives by working for a consumer products company. And so I went that path. And within that company, I was lucky enough to be placed in research and development for various food categories, during the time that I was there. So that was very interesting. We got to do a lot of new product launches, product formulations, a lot of new product testing with consumers and that kind of thing. So we got to see how our products were actually affecting individuals, which was great. It was a lot of fun. That's where the creativity came in.
Gotcha.
Yeah. But then when I chose to stay home after my kids, in the back of my mind, I thought, okay, well, once they're a certain age, didn't really know what that was, I'll get back into the workforce. No problem. So stayed home, had the kids. I, loved being there to take them to school, to bring them home from school. The after school time was fantastic. I loved, doing the after school routines with them. And then as they grew up, they had their after school activities and things. And so I was a chauffeur, multiple kids, multiple places. And then at some point, yes, they grew up. And then I thought, okay, so is this the time for me to get back into the workforce? Because honestly, once they're more, they can sustain themselves.
Right.
I am not a person who likes to, I want to be home to organize my house every day, or I want to clean all day, or I want to cook all day. That's not really me. And so I really wanted to do something else to have impact outside of my own home. And so I tried a few different things, a few kind of like side gigs, side jobs that I did a lot of volunteering in between, especially while my kids were in school, did a lot of volunteering while they were in school, very young. And then when I decided, okay, let me think of something that I want to do, the last thing I wanted to do was to go back to, in office or in lab job working for someone else, because I knew that I would have very little flexibility. And I wanted still to be able to, if my child has a performance in the middle of the day, in the middle of the afternoon, I just want to be able to go, pick up and go. I want to be able to pick them up from school and bring them home. That after school time is so precious with them. They tell you all their stories. And if you're lucky, they'll tell you about what happens at school. So that was still interesting to me. And I couldn't figure out how to do that in a typical, regular, quote unquote, job. And so I started looking around, well, what could I start on my own? Thinking only as if it was going to be this very, small part-time thing while the kids were in school. And all during this time, while they were very young, we moved around a lot with them, multiple times with them. We had, boxes that had moved from our very first move that hadn't never been opened in 10 years. I would just push them into closets. And I started feeling very overwhelmed by everything that we had in our home, and also overwhelmed by everything that was on our schedules, multiple practices, lessons, this, that for everyone. And so much so that I started kind of losing myself. Like, why am I here? What am I here for? Other than raising these beautiful kids, but like, what else? And so I realized that I wanted to just simplify everything so I could start to think and feel about what is it that I want to do. And that simplification process for me took a long time, because I couldn't understand how I could just get rid of stuff. And I needed to get rid of stuff because it didn't all fit. We were cramming stuff into closets, drawers, nothing was ever organized. The laundry was always behind. I was always behind on the laundry. Things were just upside down. I felt actually a lot of angst and maybe even like embarrassment and shame about having people in my home because of the way that it looked. Not because of the home that it was, but because of the clutter. There was always something, papers and toys and random things everywhere. And I couldn't figure out why. I'm an intelligent person. I worked in a very technical field. I knew how to do all these things. Why couldn't I just get a handle over my stuff and my home? And, the thing that I like to do is do the research. And so I dove deep into why that was happening. I read as much as I could about it. I found lots of psychology books, but also I ended up finding Peter Walsh and Julie Morgenstern, and then later on Marie Kondo, and a very similar theme: organize your space. And for me, it was just not organize my space, but I organize my space in order to organize my life, simplify my space in order to streamline my life. And I call it streamlining. And after I figured out how to do this for myself in a way that I could make it stick, that it would stay, that I would stay streamlined and organized easily, so I wasn't spending hours every weekend reorganizing, cleaning. I wanted to spend the minimal amount of time doing that stuff so that I could live my life, enjoy my home, enjoy my family. And once I learned how to do that, I realized I found NAPO, the National Association of Productivity and Organizing Professionals. And through their education and through their association with other professionals doing this as a job, I realized this is an industry. I could do this as a job. I would love to do that. And so I started my business again as a hobby, thinking this was just going to be like a short-term thing until I found what I really, what my real job was going to be. But this ended up being the thing that brings me joy, that brings me, this feeling of accomplishment when I'm able to teach others how to streamline their homes. And I always say that my goal is once I've taught someone to do this, and for some people it takes a day, for other people it takes months, but whatever it is, however long it takes for me to be able to pass on this knowledge to you, you should never need an organizer in your home again. You will be able to do this because you'll know how to streamline your life and keep it that way for good. So that's how I became an organizer.
Tune in next week for part 2 from Friends from Wild Places.
You've been listening to Friends from Wild Places with Shireen Bueta. Be sure to subscribe to the podcast from the links to catch every episode and unleash your passion.